You gonna do something?
I should.
Yeah, you should. And the only way he'll respect you is if you try to destroy him, because in your position, that is exactly what he would try to do.
Yeah.
I made copies of a few key documents related to all that stuff in case I got into any trouble at all. So, yeah, I would just think like anybody would be wise to keep me in a good role.
Succession, the 20-hour experiment exploring whether you can create a show populated exclusively with unlikable characters and still make the audience care about what happens to them. 20 hours and counting, because there are new episodes coming next week when Season 3 debuts, and by the end of Season 2, I would say that the experiment has been a success. Today I'm going to do a refresher video if you didn't have time to do a rewatch or if you just can't get enough of these Roy family slime puppies. Of course, this video will contain spoilers if you haven't watched the first 2 seasons. If you're just a viewer of my channel and you're curious about Succession, I definitely recommend it. The first season does take some time to get its feet underneath it, but it ends strong, and then the show continues to improve through the second season where it all comes together at the end. And the Season 3 reviews that are out there all sound pretty positive. The big question you might have is, why do you want to watch a bunch of awful people? And this isn't a review, but I'll say real quick that it's written well, and there's a lot of different routes to get into what's going on. You have family drama, you have black comedy, you have wealth porn if that's your thing, amazing locations, high stakes business maneuvering, all propped up by stellar performances across the board, and some pretty solid social satire to boot. If I were to cobble some words together, I would say that Succession gives you a relatable dose of humanity without humanizing the ghouls behind the drama. In other words, you can relate to the situations that the unrelatable characters find themselves in. Season 2 ends with one of those. Who hasn't found themselves in a situation where you're trapped with your family and it's not easy to get away? The Roys can't get away because they're on their daddy's super yacht. And while everyone's coming together to try to figure out what to do about the cruise ship controversy, no one here is safe. And everyone involved arrives with different things on their minds. Connor and Willa are fresh off opening night of the play she wrote and he financed, which seems destined for a lackluster reception. Shiv is coming off what I guess you would call a victory for the family, where she convinced the sexual assault victim who was going to testify not to go through with it. In an effort to spice things up with her husband, she's arranged a threesome with one of the employees that works on the yacht. Roman is coming off of a hostage situation, more or less, that came out of a meeting that he set up in an effort to get the financing to take the company private. Kendall arrives in a pretty good place. He had the strongest showing at the congressional hearings, and he's got Naomi Pierce with him as his companion. Greg solidifies his place once again as the outsider by not realizing that sales out means nails out, and he's got a nail fungus to deal with on top of his terrible performance at the hearing. That underlines the situation that Logan Roy finds himself in and sets the table for what they all end up on this boat to do. On his way there, Logan gets a call where he learns that the position of some of his big shareholders is that he should step down. To me, it never seems like he considers this, even later when he throws it out as an option in front of his family, but we'll come back around to that. The deal is the family's still in the middle of the proxy fight after the takeover that Kendall set in motion before he had to pull back after killing the waiter in the car crash at the end of the first season. The shareholder meeting's coming up, and Logan says he needs one meaningful scald away, which is to say a sacrifice of someone important to take the fall for the cruise's cover-up. Logan lays it out there, and then the characters all take time to discuss who should be the one to take the fall, which involves everyone getting their names thrown out there to have everyone discuss why they'd be a good candidate right in front of them. All of the non-family characters are at risk. Roman goes after Frank, and then he defends Jerry, who he's got this secret relationship going on with, but in the end they decide it has to be somebody in the family. As I mentioned, Logan offers himself up. Kendall's quick to jump in and say that it won't work though, primarily for stability. After Rhea left when she found out that Logan definitely knew what was going on with cruises and had no problem lying to her about it. Connor offers himself up because he needs money, which we'll come back to. And at one point, it feels like Tom is the one that's going to get it because he was actually complicit with destroying the documents, and he did a terrible job at the hearing. In the process of deciding, a few things happened. The way they got here was that Roman decided he didn't trust the people who were going to back their play to go private. It's a move that seems to earn him some points with his father, even though it takes an out for the company off the table. In general, Roman appears to come out of nearly being a hostage stronger than when he went in, and he even throws the idea out there of treating each other better to his siblings, but they mock the idea and it ends there. In a last-ditch effort, Kendall and Logan meet with Stewie to make him a generous offer which he refuses. While they're gone, Tom and Shiv have some alone time, and he comes clean about how unhappy he is in the marriage after she tried to assure him that she wouldn't let anything happen to him. He makes it clear that he wasn't okay with finding out that Shiv wanted an open relationship on their wedding night, and how he now wonders if the sad he'd be without her would be less than the sad he would get from being with her. That marks the end of her chances to take over as CEO, as later she loses points when she goes to Logan to ask him not to use Tom as the sacrifice. Things don't go much better for the other Roys not named Logan. Connor hits his dad up for $100 million to help with things after he refuses to help with positive reviews for Willa's play. He has to endure being crushed in the process and agree to drop out of the presidential race. Logan makes Kendall send Naomi away, saying he wasn't properly informed and that he just doesn't want Ken on drugs. It's the last in a long line of awful things he's had to endure this season, starting with getting pulled out of rehab and then being forced to go into the house of the family of the kid that died, and it all sets things up nicely for the end. Logan arrives at his decision and tells Kendall even though he did so well at the hearings, he's gonna have to be the face, and that they'll create a press conference where he can admit that he knew everything, directed the cover-up, and that it went no higher. Kendall accepts this and then asks his father if he ever thought he could do the CEO job. He says that he's not a killer. He stresses you have to be a killer, and then Ken throws it out there that maybe he deserves it for the boy who died, and Logan tells him to forget that, it's nothing, there was no real person involved, echoing the language that was used for covering up the cruise ship crimes. Ken assures everyone he'll be okay, and then he leaves to go back to New York with Greg. He arrives at the press conference to read the prepared statement. After describing why he's there, he drops a but. The but heard around the world and goes off script, calling Logan a malignant presence, a bully, and a liar, and that he was fully, personally aware of these events for a number of years. He points out that his father always kept tight control over everything that happened, and that he would never let settlements of millions of dollars and payments go out to these people without knowing about it. And Kendall has those documents from Greg to prove it. Back on the yacht, the family's watching, and you see Logan's face. It's almost as if he starts to smile, sitting there seeing his son become a killer. He did the thing that it didn't seem like any of them would be able to do. Go against their dad and really try to bring his reign to an end. Kendall had tried to do it before, and we saw how that played out. He spent most of the season as a punching bag, completely cowed, and that kept the others in line. Everything fell into place, and Greg holding on to those documents finally paid off. Of course, Logan won't go down without a fight. His smile led some viewers to guess that this might have been his plan all along. I tend to think it's more of a callback to that season 1 clip I opened the video with, that he just couldn't help enjoy seeing his son do what he would have done if the situation was reversed. I mean, I see where people are coming from, and you can kind of make it work if you go back and look at it that way, but based on how we've seen Logan handle things leading up to this point, I think it would be somewhat out of character. He uses his money, his power, and his influence to get what he wants, and everything sort of falls apart when that doesn't work. Think of him walking out of the negotiation with Nan Pierce when she tried to force him to name Shiv as his successor, which is something that he told his daughter he'd do at the beginning of the season. And then you have to wonder if he just would have told Kendall that he thought he could have been the CEO, would he still have followed through with the plan? As it is, it makes it exciting as hell to see Kendall turn the tables, and it should be a lot of fun to see where their battle goes from here. Everything is up in the air, and people are gonna have to choose sides. I think I'm most interested to see how Roman handles it and what's to become of Greg and Tom now that those documents came into play. And I think that's a great place to leave things. Let me know in the comments what you took away from the first 2 seasons of Succession and what you're hoping to see in the 3rd. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.